So now that we've shown you the 5808W3 smoke and heat detector, which also does the pre-freeze condition, alerting you to temperatures at 41 or below, this 5806W3 is a more basic smoke detector only. Doesn't do the high heat, doesn't do the low temp, but for applications where your home or your building or your room could get above 135 degrees and activate the high heat on a 5808W3. The 5806W3 does the smoke detection only and therefore could be applicable for that type of situation. The sensor is very similar. In fact, it looks identical. It's got your smoke head. It does have the same dust cover that we popped off to show the chamber. You have your smoke head with your battery. We've already pulled the tab. And then we have our smoke detector base, which has our tamper connection, indicating when the cover's off. It hasn't been programmed, so obviously there's no tamper trouble yet. And we're going to show you how to program the 5806W3 to the L7000 Lynx Touch panel. First thing we do, go to Security, and More Tools, and type in our installer code. 4112 is the default installer code. And now we can jump into programming. We go to Zones, and we highlight down and go to Zone 13, highlight it, and click Edit, which allows us to change or program our next zone. We click into serial number, and we talked about earlier, it's tough to activate a smoke, so we can key in the serial. However, you technically, it's a little funny sometimes, but you can use the test button as well. So since we showed you keying it in manually last time, I'm going to use this video to show you that you can, in fact, activate the sensor by pressing and releasing the test button. 1 beep, 2 beeps, and 3 beeps. Like I said, a little funny. Sometimes you got to do it a couple times, but keyed it in. We absolutely know that the serial number must be right because it did it automatically, 0644669. It should be impossible for that number auto-enrolled to ever differ from the number on the sensor. Loop number 1, and then device type. On the 5808W3, you might wonder, well, if it does smoke and heat, which one do I choose? We normally just default to smoke. Obviously on this one that does smoke only, there's no question, smoke detector. Response type, you have 2 options, fire no verification, meaning the first trigger of the device will set off the alarm, or fire with verification, the first trigger is ignored, the second trigger within a short period of time after would then set off the alarm. So if we have this near the kitchen, we like to make steaks on the cast iron, causes a lot of smoke, would trigger the device and possibly cause false alarms. The fire with verification may be a better option. We'll show you how that activates when we finalize the programming and put it back together. We can activate it and show you how the first trigger is ignored, the second trigger sets off the alarm. The last thing we got to do is name it. We had our other one downstairs. This one's going to go upstairs. We hit up, or U for up.
Upper. Upstairs.
Up or upper could have worked. Upstairs is even better. We have upstairs, smoke detector, fire with verification, serial number and loop is all good. We do want it to report to our central station, so we have alarm report yes. We don't want it to chime. It's not going to do any chiming. There's no faulting of this device. This is a 24-hour device. A door sensor is only active in the arming mode. A smoke detector is active in all modes. Supervision is supervised, meaning that the panel will alert us if this is out of range or the serial number is bad or the device is bad. The panel will every 12 hours check to see that it's there, as well as any other device that's supervised. And if it wasn't being seen, it would throw up a trouble on zone 13 indicating an RF supervision problem. Don't have to worry about checking the device ourselves. When it's supervised, the panel does it for us. We save it to lock in our settings. And before we finalize and come all the way out of programming, we don't want a tamper problem. So we close it up. We just slide it in. You'll notice if you try to do it in any other spot, you won't be able to close it. When you have it lined up, you can turn counterclockwise until it slides into place, and then you give it one more slight click turn so it lines up, and now we're good to go. When we exit programming and go to the home screen, the device is ready to activate. We're going to show you when we did the 5808W3 and we activated the device, because we had it set with response type fire, no verification, the very first time we set off the test button, the detector sounded the alarm. With it set to fire with verification, when we hit the test button, it should ignore the very first activation and only activate on the second button press. So we're going to show you that now. So we have our screwdriver and we have our hole opposite the hole with the plastic bridge. That's the test switch. You stick something long and skinny down into there. You can hear that the local detector made a noise, okay, indicating where the fire would be, but the panel stayed ready to arm. Now, shortly after, if that device detects smoke again, now we have our full fire alarm.
Disarmed. Disarmed. Ready to arm. Disarmed. Ready to arm.
So you can see this test button's can be a little funny with pressing it, but it's hard to see, so it's a little hard to tell when you're pressing or not. But the first press sounded the local alarm for the detector, but not for the panel. The second accurate pressing of the test button activated the detector and the panel, putting it into full alarm mode. So that highlights the difference between fire with verification and fire without verification. That's verification sensor to panel. Of course, when you set up monitoring with us or any other company, you should be able to tell the central station how they would want to respond to a fire alarm. So you could certainly have it no verification between this and the panel and still get call verification where the central station calls the house or your mobile to say, is it a real alarm or not? And you could say, oh, I was cooking, please ignore it. False alarm password is such and such, and the central station won't send out the fire truck. So don't get confused between verification between the sensor and the panel and whether or not you're able to still have verification with the phone calls from the central station. They're two separate animals. You can set it up individually and separately between that with whatever works best for your application, your home or business. So that is our 5806 W3 programming to our Lynx Touch L7000 panel.